Hello, it's Giant Tank 1400, and this is my top 100 works of animation, number 40 through 21. Now, by works of animation, I mean cartoon, anime, animated movies as well. So, this is all that, and of course, this is just based on like what I personally like or remember liking, like from my childhood and stuff like that, and of course, what I've watched. Anything that I haven't watched isn't going to be on this list, of course. Anyway, so let's get right on to it. My number 40 is Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball. Now, I saw this after I watched Dragon Ball Z, and one thing I did like about Dragon Ball was like Goku was growing up, and it was he was like a lot weaker back then, a lot more relatable than he was in like Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Super. It still has played that same formula of like Goku having to overcome an enemy. One of my favorite arcs was, I think it was like General Tao or Mercenary Tao. That was his name. How he just like the first time they met, like he just destroyed Goku, and then Goku got stronger and it was ended up beating him. So it was I really liked that arc. And then you have the whole thing of King Piccolo as well, him battling him, and then Piccolo Jr., of course, which we all know is Piccolo now in the tournament. Those are some pretty big highlights to me. Him battling Tien, of course. They really did a good job with the tournaments, in my opinion, for the most part. Alright. My favorite character in all of Dragon Ball is Krillin, so I would have liked to see him actually more in it. However, it was very impactful seeing him die to King Piccolo and stuff. It was like for one of the first times that Goku actually took things seriously, and it became like more of a personal fight. And I really like that like personal fight aspect where you got like two characters that are that basically one has done something bad to the other character or one of their friends. Like for example, like in Ruby, for instance, in Volume 5, Jean versus Cinder. That fight was very personal from John's perspective, and even though it wasn't that personal from Cinder's yet, but you got that feel. And that's one thing I really like, that fight from Goku and like King Piccolo towards the end. This is a series that I should rewatch, but probably won't. Just like I won't rewatch Dragon Ball Z, even though I would like to. It's just there's so many, like this list has shown that there's so many things I would like to rewatch. Anyway, so that's my number 40, the original Dragon Ball. My number 39 is Despicable Me 2. Now the original Despicable Me was later on this list, so further up or down, or however you describe it. As for Despicable Me 3, it would have made this list for sure if I would have saw it before I made this list and started recording the video, so I couldn't really add it in there. That being said, I still don't know which one I would like better, Despicable Me 3 or 2. I do like Gru's character growth in here. Despicable Me 1 kind of put him in that situation where he actually becomes good, starts to, and this one really, it flushes him out as a good character. He gets some really good character growth moments there where he becomes the where he really becomes the good guy in this story. And of course you got some really funny moments between him and his love interest. I can't remember her name. However, I do like this one more than the first one, even though I guess if I rewatch them they might change places or whatever. So that's my number 39, Despicable Me 2. My 38 is the original Ben 10. Now, this show, not exactly sure where it came out. It came out a while ago, and really, it was definitely an interesting show because you got this like 10-year-old kid. He finds what he calls a watch, which we later know as the Omnitrix, and it turns him into all these different aliens with very unique sets of abilities. And that was definitely a very interesting concept because he could adapt to pretty much any situation. Well, not any situation, but like kind of the fights he was fighting at the beginning of the series, he could, with the aliens he could definitely adapt to very wide circumstance of situations. Like you had one that could like swim and breathe on the water. You had a fire guy, someone who could fly, like someone who was strong, so someone who was very smart. So it was like he had all the attributes of like all these different superheroes, if you will, packed into one. And this series really was the start of it all. And I did like it more than Omniverse for that reason, that it kind of like started it all. As for like story arcs, there were story arcs in Omniverse that I liked better because Ben 10 was very episodic and it had like kind of overarching series thing going on a little bit. However, most of it was very episodic. However, Omniverse, the episodes that were very filler-ish were just bad in comparison, and this was just better, and this is what started it all. So that's my number 38, Ben 10. My number 37 is 16. Now, I remember watching this when it came out on Cartoon Network, and like I was just randomly flipping the channels. I was like, okay, I'll watch this, but this is like, I really liked the comedy of this, and I really liked just kind of the way it took these teenage kids that are 16 years old, 6 of them, and they're like working at the mall, and so, some of the interesting characters really was even though they didn't really completely flesh this out, was like Caitlin, and how she was very rich and everything, but she like maxed out her dad's credit cards or something like that, and she had to pay him back. I wish they would have like took that story out further. That was kind of like the beginning of it, and how she met like all the other kids. If I had to pick a favorite character in that show, it would definitely be Jude. He was just kind of very laid back, very funny guy. This show is just like funny to watch. It has kind of the same beats as All Grown Up in a lot of different ways. I like the characters as well, but I like the characters of All Grown Up more, maybe because more nostalgic reasons that I watched Rugrats growing up. However, I did like these characters as well. I do wish they would have developed some of them a little better overall in the overarching story. But for like a show that's supposed to be like a comedy like this, you don't tend to see a ton of like character development throughout a series base, because you got all these different authors working on like different episodes and stuff. I'm not exactly sure if that's the case for 16, but a lot of times it is for those type of shows. Anyway, so that's my number 37, 16. My number 36 is Charlie Brown. Now, there's not a ton I can say about this show, except growing up I did like it. I loved this show growing up for sure. And even if it was like a standalone movie, Charlie Brown and the Christmas special, that would still be on this list for sure. That's how good I like that. I like that it actually showed the true meaning of Christmas. And a lot of the other specials could be standalone on this list as well for sure. Like I really like the camp like movie one. Then there was the Great Pumpkin and Halloween. That was good. And like I like the concept of like Charlie Brown. You got all these different characters and stuff like that. I mean, it focuses on Charlie Brown really, but he also has this really good friend Linus, who is arguably like a Gary Stu character or a Mary Sue character. However, like he does struggle in some things, but he's just like pretty much a super genius. He knows like so much, and he's so like he's kind of like Hey Arnold in a lot of respects. I mean, Arnold from Hey Arnold. Anyway, so that is my number 36, Charlie Brown. My number 35 is Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, and yes, Alien Force will be actually coming up in the next. It's my number 34. However, I did split these up. I thought about putting them together because kind of the way I watched them, like I skipped around a lot, and it was just like I stopped watching Alien Force, then I came back in Ultimate Alien, and I watched Alien Force and finished up at Ultimate Alien. It was like really weird how I watched the shows together. That being aside, I do really like Ultimate Alien. I like it better than the original Ben 10 because you got a more grown up Ben who's more serious about stuff. Same with Alien Force. I just don't like it as much as Alien Force because I didn't like the concept of the Ultimate Aliens. It's just one thing I just didn't like about the show, and in the fact that like not all his aliens got ultimates in the series, which it seems kind of weird to me because they would rather like almost give him a new alien than give him like an ultimate to one of the aliens he already has. I don't know. It's just one concept that I personally didn't like. I mean, imagine like Ultimate Alien X, like what the heck that would be like. It's like it just loses out to Alien Force. However, like the concepts of Ben 10 are still out there. They got some overarching season plots going on there. Ben 10, of course, saving the day from it, like Vilgax. Vilgax seems to always be like the final villain in these for some reason. And then you got like, I don't remember if he fights Ghost Freak and Ultimate Alien or not. But he's got like, you know, several villains at this point. I can't remember. Yeah. He fought Kevin as well when he like turned in went to mutant again. Anyway, so that's my number, what is it, 35 now? Ben 10, Ultimate Alien. My number 34 is Ben 10, Alien Force. Now, I already mentioned kind of why I like this over Ultimate Alien. It's just because of the Ultimate Aliens. They kind of feel like a gimmick to me, really. That being aside, Alien Force is like the first series that really steps Ben up from like a 10 years old to like he's either 15 or 16 or something like that, and he basically you see how he matured and how he's actually taking stuff seriously. Like he's actually learning how to fight, like just in his human form and stuff like that. So Ben's actually really takes things seriously in this, and he saves like the universe a few times during this and Ultimate Alien, of course, in the course of the series. And this is really where he gets his name from. And like in the first season is kind of where like everyone starts to know who he is. And he really like steps up and he becomes that hero kind of that he always says he was in like the original, which he was a hero, but this one he's taking it a lot more seriously due to like his grandpa Max and stuff. So it was really, though they skipped a lot of his character development in that, I really like to see kind of that side of Ben. I mean, I wish they would have shown like why he took the Omnitrix off to begin with, how he got it off and stuff like that, like back in the past. Why did he make those choices? Because we do get to kind of see why he put it back on here in the like the first couple episodes. Anyway, so that is my number 34, Ben 10, Alien Force. My number 33 is the Looney Tunes, and that's like Daffy Duck, who happens to be my favorite character, Bugs Bunny, you know, all of them together. And this is just very slapstick comedy, very very comedic. Like you have like rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season, and then like Bugs Bunny, like they call it actually a Bugs Bunny now. He switches it on them, which is and it was done like many times in many different episodes, but it's definitely funny. And you got like Elmer Fudd, you got Roadrunner Coyote, you got Tweety Bird, Sylvester and Tweety Bird. You got all of them, and it's just hilarious. Like some of those episodes, I really did laugh as a kid and everything when I was watching it on Cartoon Network. It was just really funny overall. So that's my number 33, the Looney Tunes. My number 32 is Dragon Ball Super. Now, Dragon Ball Super I don't like as much as Dragon Ball Z. However, it's similar to Dragon Ball Z and like I would say Dragon Ball in some of its comedy, if you will, in the sense that like it's still like Dragon Ball in the sense that Goku's trying to like break that limit. And that's really one of the best things about Dragon Ball overall throughout all its series is that Goku comes against an opponent that is beyond him, and he has to save that opponent to save the Earth. But really, he's doing that to save the Earth, but what's really going on is that he wants to fight the strong opponents that are stronger than him, in order to break through his limit, in order to break through that shell, because he's a Saiyan. Vegeta's very similar in that sense. He has like some pride as a Saiyan. He's a different character, and he is one of the most well-developed characters in Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super, in my personal opinion. Dragon Ball Super took where Vegeta left off in Dragon Ball Z in the Buu saga, where he was at there. He sacrificed himself and that stuff. He admitted that Goku was better than him, and they took it to like the next level with his character development. And even in this last arc of the series here that we're watching, he's got a lot of moments to shine, and he's like thinking about his family. He's thinking about them more than Goku is, and it could be argued that Vegeta is actually gooder. That's not a word. I don't want to use better, but he's a more pure character now than Goku is in some aspects. There's other aspects that it's not true at all. However, Dragon Ball Super was definitely a nostalgic factor for Dragon Ball Z, and I think anyone who watches Dragon Ball Super, who watched DBZ in the past, can definitely can definitely acknowledge that, and it's definitely good to see like these characters grow and stuff like that. So that's my number 32, Dragon Ball Super. My number 31 is Green Lantern, the animated series. Now, I wasn't gonna watch this series at first. Some of these on this list, I was like, I'm not gonna watch this, but I watched it just like randomly one day on like Cartoon Network, and I really enjoyed it. Like, so I went back and saw like a lot of the episodes and stuff like that. I don't think I've seen every episode, but I saw like a lot of them, and I think it's actually a really good. It has really good character development for characters like Razor and Aya. Hal Jordan, like, I don't really like him that much. His character didn't grow that much, and mostly because he was sort of like a paradigm character in a sense. Like, he already did his growing, so I mean, he learned some stuff throughout the series. Maybe if I watched it again, he did have that one episode where he was he had like the orange lantern rings, and so he was very greedy, which was definitely character growth for him. However, like, I didn't actually enjoy like Razor and Aya's story. I mean, I didn't like that, like, she was just presented as a robot at first. However, it turns out she is not a robot. She's actually a living being, because I think her name is Scar, or turns into Scar, or something like that. Well, it's one of the Guardians took a fragment of the living willpower of the Green Lantern core. I believe that's what it is. You have to excuse me because my Green Lantern verse is like, my knowledge of Green Lantern is not that good at all. This is really my introduction. Besides like Justice League stuff, every once in a while, this is really my introduction to Green Lantern lore. And from what I've seen, it actually did a fairly nice job of it. Scar apparently was the founder of the Black Lantern Corps, from what I've read. I would have to don't quote me. I would have to definitely double check on that. It was just something I heard. However, that being said, that is my number 31, I believe. Green Lantern, the animated series. My number 30 is The Brave Little Toaster. Now, this is very nostalgic to me. I used to love this movie. I watched it a ton as a kid. I haven't watched it in a long time. However, that being said, it was really good to see like these inanimate objects, these appliances, really just travel all this way to reunite with their owner and stuff like that. It was one of those like adventure things, sort of like The Land Before Time, which is coming up on this, and some other, like, they kind of had the same beats that Land Before Time did, where the original, at least, where they're trying to get where they have to go. I like this one a little less than Land Before Time. For some reason, with character developments, like the toaster didn't really develop that well, in my opinion, whereas Littlefoot did. But my differences there are just very slight, because both of them held a special place in my heart for like my childhood and stuff like that. So very nostalgic for me. The Brave Little Toaster. It was they journeyed through like, I think there was like a waterfall, there were like cliffs, like forests and stuff like that. The vacuum was very funny. The radio was hilarious. The lamp was funny. It was just a very it was just a very funny and entertaining series. So that's my number 30, The Brave Little Toaster. My number 29 is Bato, the original Bato. Bato the Wolf Quest was back on this list, further back. It's already been there. Anyway, Bato was, it's really about him, Bato, and how he was like half wolf or something like that, if I remember. Yeah, he was half wolf, and basically he was in love with this dog, this dog, and she liked him too, and but he wasn't accepted by society, so he just had to live like in it's like Alaska, I believe, or something like that, like, or Canada or some place where there's a lot of snow. So he kind of had to live like in the wilderness and stuff like that. He had some like a goose and like a bear or something like that. It's been a while since I've seen it. Anyway, you get to Bato, and it's actually him. The main lead dog who wants that girl that Bato likes. He actually becomes like he's the villain of the series. He's the antagonist. And he just like dips and like leaves the medicine that's being traveled by dog sled to get to its location, and that's where Bato becomes like the lead dog and leads them to the right spot. And there's an interesting plot point in this series where Bato's marking the trees to know how to get back. And the bad dog in it, she marks a bunch of it so they go in circles and stuff like that. However, while he's doing it, the bear, I believe it's a bear, licks each one of the trees, and then Bato smells it, and that's how he actually gets back to find it. It's definitely an interesting plot point. That like the first time viewing, probably it's been a long time, I didn't notice, but then I noticed it later as a child, and it's one of those things. It was like the first plot point as growing up that I noticed in a movie or a series or anything like that like made a difference later on. So you think it's just like filler or whatever, but it's actually there. And that was like the first time. Now I notice them way more. However, it was definitely interesting, and I personally just like wolves a lot. So the Bato like definitely holds a special place in my heart, and definitely holds a special place in my childhood as well. So that is number, what are we on? 29, Bato. My number 28 is The Land Before Time. Something I just mentioned like two back when I mentioned The Brave Little Toaster, how beat for beat it's sort of like the same plot. Like you have them trying to get someplace, and they're like, in this case they're very like young and inexperienced. The Brave Little Toaster is a little different. But that's why I kind of like this one more, is that you get to see like Littlefoot, the main character's progression. You get to see these characters kind of grow up. There isn't really any older character to teach them or like lead them. It's up to like Littlefoot to lead them, and he's very inexperienced in the whole matter. And really he learns how to be that leader, and he learns a lot through his journey. I mean, they all do, and that's kind of why I like Land Before Time more than The Brave Little Toaster, is because the character arc of Littlefoot and the others is too. There's Sarah, there's Petrie, there's Ducky, Spike. I think that's all of them, and they really get that like character growth. Not like all of them per se, but it was interesting to see them grow, and there's definitely some comedy there and everything. And they actually had to face T-Rex, which they call Shark Tooth, or I don't know exactly what they call it. It's been a while since I've seen it. And they finally get to the Promised Land with the walls to protect them from the T-Rex and all the vegetation they could eat. So that's my number, what are we on? 28, The Land Before Time. My number 27 is Rocket Power. Rocket Power is a show that has these 4 characters do extreme sports like surfing. Well, they play like street hockey as well, but also skateboarding, rollerblading. I don't know. They also do some snowboarding as well. They live like in California or something. And the show definitely has this like episodic, like it's a very episodic show, in which case like usually they get into some trouble or something happens. There's some plot that goes on. It's resolved by the end of it. The characters grow, but they don't really grow overall. Particularly Otto, who does sort of the same mistakes and similar mistakes, if you will, in later episodes. Particularly, it kind of gets old in like the last season. I believe there's 4 seasons, if I remember right. Where I just remember 2 episodes, like beat by beat. Yeah, they had different like setting and stuff like that, but beat by beat, they were just like Otto makes a mistake because he is prideful. Or because he thinks he can handle it, and then he ends up like basically ends up like something bad happens, and then it gets resolved in the end, and Otto like kind of learns his lesson even though he doesn't. That's kind of my take on the show. That seeing all these extreme sports is fun. It's interesting for sure, and seeing these characters as well. My problem is that the characters get developed, but there's no like character growth in the series except for one, and that's Sam. Sam's character growth is clearly seen as he doesn't know how to skateboard or snowboard, but he's a very good goalie at the start, and you get to see him really struggle at first. They even have an episode focusing on him learning to surf for the first time and Tito helping him out. He becomes a better skateboarder. And there's an episode that focuses on that, as he's the one who actually makes it down the big slope that everyone keeps falling on. And it just like his character growth is good throughout the series, and even his interaction as with the other characters like Otto and Twister and them and Reggie, that they become more. Well, Reggie was always respectful towards him, but Otto and Twister become more respectful to him as the series goes on to some degree. They acknowledge his like some of his accomplishments. Anyway, so that is my number 27, Rocket Power. My number 26 is Kung Fu Panda 2. Now, what I like about this one a lot is that Po gets this huge character growth in this movie. He learns inner peace, and he's able to do some pretty impressive things with it at the end of the movie. Tigress also got some character growth as well. Shifu wasn't really into that much. However, you saw him at the beginning, how he gained inner peace in the last one, due to actually Po being the Dragon Warrior. It also had some pretty cool kung fu scenes, though the first one was actually a little better in that regard, but it was interesting at the end seeing Po use his inner peace to kind of deflect all the cannon fire. So that's my number, 26, Kung Fu Panda 2. My number 25 is Batman Beyond. Now this is my favorite of all the Batman series out there that I've watched that had Batman in there. And Batman Beyond is about a future where Bruce is basically retired. He's a really old man at this point, and it comes into the future where a lot of things have changed. And then you have Terry McGinnis, who actually discovers who Batman is and wants to become Batman himself. And the first episode was pretty interesting of how all that goes down, but he ends up doing it, and Bruce ends up like training him, and he becomes Batman with Bruce's help behind the computer. The show's very interesting. They have some pretty good villains throughout it as well, and there's even like a movie where Terry, the new Batman, has to face off against the Joker again. And he did it like very differently than Bruce. He actually laughs where Bruce never laughed. So it was definitely an interesting series for sure. And that is my number 25, Batman Beyond. My number 24 is Toy Story 3, and that is my favorite of all the 3 Toy Stories right now. I don't know about Toy Story 4. It's not out. Well, at least I don't think it's out. I'm pretty sure it's not. That being said, I really like Toy Story 3 encompassing a toy as the main villain. They kind of did it in Toy Story 2, but he wasn't the main villain. He was like a partial villain, if you will. This one, the bear guy actually has a pretty good backstory of why he's the way he is, and he even has like companions there who actually went against him at the end, and one tells the story of how he became the way he is and why he's like ruling Sunnyside, if you will. So Toy Story 3 definitely had a like character growth for well, it didn't have a huge, it had some character growth with Woody as he finally like let go of Andy and was able to like accept a new child to be their toy. So it was definitely an interesting concept, if you will. And it was definitely interesting having that villain as the main villain. And to be honest, at the end there, like pretty much all the toys are gonna die, and then out of nowhere the Space Invader guys come and save them, which is kind of, I mean, there was a giant crane and stuff like that, and they was always talking about cranes, but it was kind of just out of nowhere. That being said, I give it a pass since it was a very like emotional filled movie. And it was a very, very great movie with a villain that was very well developed. That's how you make a great villain, right there. So that's my number 24, Toy Story 3. My number 23 is Zootopia. Zootopia is one of the best animated movies in terms of animation I've ever seen. Its detail and its landscape and its really characters in general is simply amazing. I don't think there's any stills in that entire movie at all. At least I didn't catch any. And like you even had like huge backgrounds where like everyone was like walking and stuff, and just an amazing landscape. They had like 4 different biomes. I think they wanted to add more, but for time restraints or whatever, they really couldn't. And I thought they were like really well done, really detailed, if you will. The movie, besides the amazing animation, is even a good movie. I mean, it has like a very like plot where the bunny, I can't remember her name, and the fox definitely team up, even though it's like predator and prey teaming up. It's a movie. There is a message there about racism and stuff like that, and but they do it in such a way that they don't do it like over the top like some movies. They push in your face all the time, but it's still obviously there, and it is a great movie overall. A lot of the interactions between the characters and stuff like that, and then how you have the corrupt mayor, and then really his assistant being the final villain, kind of the last person you would expect when you are first introduced to her, because she's just a little sheep, like his kind of like his assistant, if you will. That's what the mayor treats her as, even though she was like the vice person or something like that to get the sheep vote. Anyway, so without me going more into detail about it, that is my 23, Zootopia. My number 22 is The Incredibles. The Incredibles has one of the best villains in all the movies, if you will, and that is Shnesto. He's basically a huge fanboy, and he just geeks out over Mr. Incredible and stuff like that. But he ends up being the main villain of the whole series. And the whole thing is that he actually wanted to be a superhero to begin with, and that's what kind of drives his backstory. I do wish there's a little bit more of that. That being said, he is like extremely smart, and he's able to actually build stuff that the superheroes really can't beat. That being said, the concept of the family, the development of the characters as well. The girl in the movie was very well developed. What's her name? Violet. You see her at first; she's kind of very shy and very insecure. There's even an animation thing with her hair covering one side of her face, And at the towards the end of the movie, she removes this, signifying that she has become more confident and less insecure and more comfortable with herself. So you get this thing that she wants to hide at first, and she doesn't want to be seen with her hair in front. But then later on, after they go through this adventure and stuff, she becomes more confident and stuff. So she's fine with it. So really great character development on her part. In particular, I mean, Mr. Incredible as well, but I think she is really the most well developed character. Well, the character with the most character growth in The Incredibles, and that is my number 22, The Incredibles. My number 21 is X-Men Evolution. Now, X-Men Evolution doesn't really follow the comics of X-Men that well. I mean, it has all the same characters, kind of the same beats, if you will, kind of the same things going on. But it is different because a lot of the characters, not all of them, are a lot younger. And it's really the start of Mr. Xavier's school and stuff like that. And even in the beginning, most of the public doesn't even know about the existence of mutants, but they do find it out eventually. That being said, this is like my introduction really to Marvel, and not DC, but this is my introduction to Marvel. This is the first time I got to see Marvel characters in general, which is kind of why this is so high on the list, is because that's definitely a significant moment for me. I still don't read comics or anything like that. I do keep up with the stories a little bit here and there, but this was definitely my introduction to it, and it definitely has a nostalgic factor to it. And I really thought they did a great job with like Nightcrawler, Kitty, who's Shadowcat, I believe, and Rogue. Those are like my three favorite characters in the entire Marvel universe, mostly because of this series, to be honest. I haven't really seen them in that much other stuff. I mean, there's the X-Men movies, however, I didn't really like those that much. Anyway, so that's my number 21, X-Men Evolution. Now that was my top 100, number 40 through 21. We got to some really good ones on this list. But the next 20, of course, are going to be definitely my favorite. That will be coming out like next week. Hopefully, if everything goes planned, I'm not making any promises. That being said, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.